forsaken booth. The truth is you sadly mistaken. Proof I'm better than.
Let's get it. Talking about SmackDown from November the 5th, 2021, where Roman Reigns is back from running around naked on his private island, driving his wife wild, probably about to have baby number 12. But instead, he came back to grace us with his presence on SmackDown. And while he had a great week on his vacation, the Usos didn't have a great week because they lost. They lost to the New Day. So Roman was definitely concerned about that. And this episode of SmackDown was about Jimmy Uso, who was the one who got pinned, having to make it right. But the New Day had a little bit of something to say about it. So let's start right there. Brother James Uso was challenged to a bend the knee match between him and King Xavier Woods. So the rules were, if Xavier Woods wins, Jimmy Uso had to bend the knee. If Jimmy Uso won, then Roman Reigns had to be acknowledged by King Woods. The opening segment was all right until the New Day came out there, and then they started hamming it up, calling him Jiminy Woods and James Woods. Calling him James Woods? James Uso, which I thought was funny because that would naturally be his name, wouldn't it? How many people are just named Jimmy and they're not really named James? So it sounds like it common sense that you would call him James Uso. And so the Usos were not interested in this bend the knee match. They didn't want no part of it. But Roman accepted because the Usos have got to make things right. And they were less than thrilled about it. Later on, Roman is absolutely spazzing backstage. He's talking about he took one vacation. One vacation and SmackDown started to suck. It's almost as bad as Raw, which made Jimmy Uso chuckle a little bit. And then Roman got real pissed at him and started applying some pressure to him, saying, like, I'm not trying to pop you. What you got going on here? Then he asks Jay, what's wrong? He says, can't lose, Us. Why can't we lose? Because we the ones. So Roman is applying pressure to young James Uso. And he using insider terms on TV, which is always a trigger for me. I hate that. I hate it so much. I hate it too much, as a matter of fact. So let's get to the main event. Xavier Woods versus James Uso. I keep calling him James Uso now. I guess that's going to be his name. Xavier Woods wins the match via roll-up because Jimmy tried to get some help from Jay. Jay gets caught by the referee. He breaks up the pin. And then Xavier Woods just rolls up Jimmy. So he didn't get a dominant victory over Jimmy. It was kind of a fluke. That was enough. Jay selling this whole thing. All of this. I'm talking all of it. From the very beginning, Jay is really good. When Jimmy was trying to blame him for losing, and Jay was like, nope, it was him. It was him. And then in this particular segment, when he got his hands on his head, like, oh no, Jimmy got to bend the knee. He was like, oh no. He was just holding his head like, it sucks. And of course, Jimmy didn't bend the knee. Roman came out there to make the save. And together, the Bloodline beat up Kofi and Woods, destroying Kofi's legs with the Uso splash. Roman proclaimed himself the real king, and that if Xavier Woods shows up next week, he's going to show him what a real king looks like. And if you've been following like my archetype videos, which I haven't done the king yet, the king archetype, but this is what I've been saying. I do have videos on Roman Reigns where I discuss the king, and Roman typifies the king. The king, for those of you who don't know, is the image of God. It is God on earth. The king rules by divine right or through right of combat. So you may have a king who wins his crown, like Xavier Woods and King Booker, even Triple H, or you'll have kings by birthright. that would be Roman Reigns, who comes from the royal Anoa'i family or whatever, right? So you will have those two concepts. And the major concept of the king is that he makes the things flourish. He's the breeder, like Genghis Khan had all those hundreds of children or whatever. That's the king's job, is to populate the society and to make sure that people are flourishing. So as the king, Roman Reigns sees himself as the face of SmackDown, and that without him, SmackDown sucks. Because he says, like, hey, I went away for 1 week and it's as bad as Raw. Meaning the ratings, which were down when he wasn't on there, but it was also on FS1. So, but he's a heel, so that doesn't matter, right? So you have that issue where it's his job as king of SmackDown, even though they're not calling him a king, they're calling him the head of the table, the tribal chief being king. Anything that is in a boss, authoritarian type of position, you can equate it to being a king. In some cases, a CEO of a company can be a king. Or the king archetype, let's put it like that. That's an easier way to understand it. In some cases, Mr. McMahon as a character would have been a king because he had omnipotent power, almost complete creative control over what he was able to do. And within his character, he limited himself in certain ways. And Roman kind of does the same thing too. He's limited in certain ways, but for the most part, he typifies the king archetype. So now you're sitting in a situation where you have two kings, and you can never have two kings. It just does not work this way. So it means one of them has to sublimate to the other. And that's what this match was about. This match was about who is the real king. Of course, we couldn't put Roman in that match because then Roman has to beat Xavier, and Xavier is freshly minted king. So there was no purpose in them doing that, at least not right now. They may do it next week, though. So it's going to be creating the hierarchy. And somehow they're going to have to decide, which I think there should be. It's pretty obvious to anybody with ears and eyes and common sense that Roman Reigns is not going to be slotted below Xavier Woods. This is not going to happen. They're going to have to find some way, though, of not really completely burying Xavier Woods. Now, of course, they avoided this whole Queen fiasco by having Carmella, Charlotte on SmackDown, while Zelina Vega is claiming to be the Queen on Raw. You can have those two operate in the same space, even though it's not really. Zelina Vega hasn't really established herself as a character yet. But Roman is very well established, and Xavier Woods is trying to establish himself as king of WWE, but it's not really going to work with Roman Reigns there. Because you have a very strong king archetype, but Roman Reigns is not really going to work out what you have in other kings. And that's part of what, has been hampering the King of the Ring for a long time. This really has been the power game, because the king is supposed to have ultimate power. That's how you become either a tyrant or a benevolent king. You could either give and help everyone else prosper, or you could be greedy and keep everything for yourself. And when you have the ultimate power like a Mr. McMahon, you can prevent other kings from, making power. So that's why, if you look at it from an archetypal perspective, the Kings of the Ring during the Attitude Era were absolute garbage, because Mr. McMahon was the unmitigated king of the ring. No matter if you won a stupid tournament, that didn't mean anything. You didn't have the power of Mr. McMahon, and he exists in this universe where you exist. So if you are calling yourself the king, then what is he? He must be God, so because he can do far more than you can. So in this concept, it's similar things. Roman has a lot more power than Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods has, one knight, which is Kofi Kingston. Roman Reigns has at least two with the Usos, So there, you look at it from that perspective, you compare the two, there's just really no comparison. But I like the idea. I like the clashing of the kings. I like maybe bumping Xavier Woods up to the main event so that he could perhaps challenge Roman Reigns one day. Hopefully not one day soon. Hopefully they don't do the title match like next week. Of course, all of this is just building up to Roman versus Big E. Because once we get to that point, where Survivor Series is going to happen, then Big E's going to pop over to SmackDown, which might end up being next week, and getting into a physical confrontation with Roman Reigns, which I legit should be fun. I personally think they should do Bloodline New Day as the main event of Survivor Series, but I think they've done it on Raw already. As a matter of fact, I believe they did do it on Raw. Yeah, they did it on Raw a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, so it has to be Roman versus Big E. I don't want Roman versus Big E, mainly because Big E is a new champion. I think they need to break up the champions versus champions thing. Let's break that part up. And instead just have Xavier Woods versus Roman Reigns and Big E versus Seth Rollins on that show. And have Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston in Big E's corner, and Big E and Xavier Woods' corner. And that way, we get the feel of New Day versus the Bloodline without it actually being New Day versus Bloodline. So, but they're going to do Big E versus Roman, and then have Roman beat another WWE champion. That's why you shouldn't have two champions. Having two champions is just like having two kings. You got to establish a hierarchy. Hierarchies are natural. People get too tight-assed about the concept of hierarchies. In every human population, there's going to be a hierarchy. If there's two people, there's going to be an alpha friend and a beta friend. And it's not a bad thing to be the beta friend. Sometimes you're the beta friend and you don't even know it. You're the person always calling, hey, you want to go hang out? Hey, you want to go do this? Hey, you want to go do that? Or you're the person that they call and say, yeah, I want to go to the movies. Hey, you want to go? Sure. Hey, I want to go to the bar. Hey, I want to go too. Sure. Hey, you're the tag along. The beta friend. In every human population, there's hierarchies. So when you have these hierarchies and some of these characters operate in hierarchy, some can operate within the hierarchy easier than others. The king usually is at the top. It has to be at the top because they have to have, in some ways, control over the land or the general area in order to create prosperity, in order to giveth and taketh away. In order to use the power that they have to have power. And you can't have power from the bottom. Socialists think that they can, but you cannot. Let's move on. What is this? Naomi and Shayna Baszler. So Naomi wrestles Shayna Baszler. She out-wrestles Shayna Baszler, which is absolutely an embarrassment because Shayna Baszler is actually an amateur wrestler. So she out-wrestles Shayna Baszler and gets the pinfall 1, 2, 3. Shayna Baszler is absolutely shocked and embarrassed. Then Sonya Deville comes out there, negates the pinfall by claiming that there should have been a rope break before the pin. The referee botched the call. She then reverses the decision and tells that the match has to be restarted. The match restarts. Shayna Baszler immediately chokes out Naomi and wins the match. The purpose of this, as we've starting to see now, is that Sonya Deville is saying that this is now the most passion and the most fire and the most intensity you've ever seen out of Naomi. She's never shown this before. And if she could continue to do this and win her matches, then maybe, just maybe, Sonya Deville will get in the ring with her. And it seems like Sonya Deville questions Naomi's passion and questions her intensity and her fortitude. Not testicular fortitude, of course, because she doesn't have testicles. At least I don't believe so. So she doesn't believe that Naomi has fortitude, doesn't believe that Naomi has intensity, doesn't believe that Naomi has passion, and Naomi is out here trying to show it. I think we could do a better job of showing Naomi's passion by not having her do her full dance entrance. We have to be able to contextualize entrances and stuff like that. Like, I know we're supposed to do trademarks and, oh yeah, you got this trademark entrance with the sliding and the glowing and everything. It's supposed to be great. But sometimes you got to know when not to do that stuff, when it's not that important. If we're going to do the story of Naomi being more fired up than usual, then let's skip the glow entrance. You can keep their theme song, but let's skip the glow entrance. Let's just have her march to the ring and be dead serious and ready to fight, ready to prove herself. That's what I want to see. And we're not going to do that because this is WWE. And they trademark everything and they want everything to happen. They want you to do your exact same entrance every single week without fail and without flub. And it's sad and stupid. Both sad and stupid. And during this match, though, there was a German suplex by Shayna Baszler that looked pretty bad. It looked like Naomi landed on her head. But, of course, she ended up finishing the match, so everything's fine. This isn't quite working out for Shayna Baszler the way I wanted it to. I wanted Shayna Baszler to be the leg breaker for Sonya Deville. And it seems like they don't have that idea. That Shayna Baszler is just an inanimate object. She's just a hammer that Sonya Deville is hitting Naomi with. Shayna Baszler isn't making any decisions. She's not talking. I imagine them having I don't know how to use the word, but relationship. Much like Christian and Tomko, where, Sonya Deville, you walk up on Sonya Deville in her office and Shayna Baszler is standing there, in her jacket or whatever, just looking at you, daring you to say something out of line to Sonya Deville. And Sonya Deville is like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? Because if you move anywhere near me, Shayna Baszler is going to have your lunch. That's kind of how I envisioned it. That's not how it's working out. How it's working out is Sonya Deville is still on her own. And when she doesn't like Naomi, she's going to pick up this hard billiard ball and throw it at Naomi. And this billiard ball just happens to be named Shayna Baszler. That's not what I wanted, but, we can't all be stars. I like the storyline, though. I like the storyline idea of Naomi showing some passion and some heart and showing that she really still wants to be there, especially at a time where a lot of people think that she is washed up and she doesn't have any more to deliver. And she still does have something. She put on a decent match still. What's the next segment? Zaya leaving yet? Okay, cool. Hopefully she doesn't get fired before she actually makes her debut. Ridge Holland, he came out there and cut a promo, and I was very intrigued by this, mainly because I think this is the most words I've ever heard Ridge Holland say in a promo before. So he talks about how he came to SmackDown, how what he was so excited about coming to SmackDown was that he's going to get to meet Sheamus. And how him and the proper lads, I guess his football club or rugby club or whatever, used to sit around, have themselves a pint, and watch Sheamus. It really made Sheamus sound old as hell. He started talking about, remember when he beat John Cena for the title? I was like, damn, how long ago was that? That was at least 10 years ago, wasn't it? At least 10 years? Probably longer? No, it probably wasn't 10. Was it? Sheamus debuted in 2012. He was the Great White. He's beating everybody every week. So he might have been champion in 2009, maybe. So yeah, it's at least 10 years. He talked about how they celebrated and how excited they were to see Sheamus win the title. And when he won the title again, defeating Roman Reigns, how they were very excited about that too. And how, he's been expired by Sheamus. And that's very bad for the rest of the superstars in WWE. And I love this. Because this means we're going to get Sheamus as somebody's mentor. And that's going to be excellent stuff. Sheamus as Mr. Wrestling to Ridge Holland's Magnum TA could be fun stuff. I don't want them as a tag team, though. Now, I know that means they're going to have to work tag team matches. I'm okay with that concept. I don't want them as like a random douchey tag team. I want Sheamus to literally be imparting his Irish brawling wisdom onto Ridge Holland. And listen to him, man. Look at me little hat. Look at me little jacket. And how about, you broke me nose? Me nose been broken 6 times, man. I can't wait for it. I'm surprised they haven't pulled the trigger on Sheamus being on TV yet. They've been slow rolling. Sheamus and Jeff Hardy actually getting into storylines on this show. I'm thinking a lot of these guys are really going to kick in after Survivor Series. So maybe if they claim they're going to keep firing people every 6 weeks, 6 months now. And I'm telling you, if a guy goes off TV for more than 4 weeks, I'm really getting concerned, especially if there's no real injury. I'm going to get real concerned. And Xia Li's been, she was hurt at first, but Xia Li's been gone for a while. Jeff Hardy's been off TV for a little while. Sheamus has been off TV, but he's also been hurt. So I'm thinking they're going to start mixing some of these people back in around Survivor Series or afterwards. Hopefully. So, Ridge Holland is going to get to work with Sheamus. This is great. I love that. It's a great idea. I think Ridge Holland could be a modern Sheamus, even though Sheamus is a modern Sheamus. But he can set up something good for the future. All right, so Shotzi is going to cut the promo. Her name is not Shotzi Blackheart anymore. It's just Shotzi. Now, it seems like her name should be Blackheart now because she's a heel. So she can get away. I can understand changing her name from Shotzi Blackheart when she was a babyface. Because, Blackheart, babyface, probably not the best idea. But she's a heel now. So you can go back to calling her Shotzi Blackheart. But maybe that's too dark. Maybe everybody says, oh, we can just call her Shotzi. Shotzi's a unique enough name. Well, I guess so. So the internet lost their mind over this Shotzi promo because Shotzi essentially said there will be no more Tank. But I was far more interested in the rest of her promo, where she says she's finally had enough. Since she came to SmackDown, she's lost title shots. She's lost support of the fans. She lost a tag team partner. And she's lost the biggest match of her career. And it's all because of Sasha Banks' patronizing. The last straw. And now she's going to run over Sasha and anyone else that gets in her way. And I don't need a Tank to do it. So it seems like she's getting ready to tank. So a lot of people are upset. I was very interested in her promo. For starters, this is the most words Shotzi have used, and she's not cringe. I realized that she has a very heavy voice. Like, she sounds bigger than she really is. She doesn't have a very feminine voice. So it's a very interesting thing. when you look at her and then you hear her voice, you're like, what's going on here? But it's almost like Rhea Ripley, where you have like this masculinized voice almost. But Rhea is big, and Shotzi kind of isn't. But it's a very interesting, deep voice for Shotzi. I'm not saying like she's got like a man's voice. That's not what I mean. It's deep for a woman. It's a very unique voice. So a lot of people are saying like she doesn't need to tank anymore. And I think that the tank is a very babyface thing. It's her riding around with the tank, shooting the cannons and everything. That's very babyface. Her not having the tank, you could always go back to the tank later. I think the important part is her helmet. I think as long as she keeps her helmet and the jacket and all that kind of stuff, she'll be fine. Because that's the very unique part of Shotzi. The helmet represents that she's a daredevil because it has horns on it. And it also is like a war helmet. So you can see that, what the character is all about just from looking at her helmet and how much it means to her to have that helmet. And it's very cool. And I think as long as you keep that visual of the helmet with the horns and the jacket, that you'll be all right with Shotzi. You don't really need the tank. The tank is sort of an extra to go along with it. So I'm not bent out of shape about them getting rid of the tank, because I know the tank is eventually going to come back anyway. As soon as he comes, it's like when they turned Shinsuke Nakamura's theme. They changed it only to bring it back later. Shotzi's going to be the exact same thing. They get rid of the tank now because she's a heel. And then as soon as she turns babyface, which probably won't be too long after this, she won't be a heel very long. And next thing I know, she's going to be turning it around. And this tank will be back. And it's going to be back to everybody's talking about how much they hate her and hate the tank and everything. But I liked her promo. I thought her promo made sense. The promo in itself was facts. It was just all facts, except the part about her losing the support of the fans. Like, the whole arena was chanting for Shotzi. So she's just being delusional on that one. But she has, lost title shots since she came to SmackDown. She has lost tag team partners. She lost 2 of them. Tegan Knox got taken away and has not debuted on Raw yet, which is suspicious. It's suspicious. Especially in the age of everybody is getting fired. Tegan Knox not being on TV is suspicious. She better have like a doctor's she better have a doctor's note or something like that, or be begging to get on TV. In any event, a lot of the stuff that Shotzi said was facts. It made sense in the context of the storyline. That Shotzi has had enough. She's tired of being pushed around. She's tired of being ignored. And I think the promo was strong enough that I want to see her come back and do another one. It wasn't awful. It wasn't terrible. And even though we know it was scripted, it didn't come across as scripted. It came across like she really believed it. So they did kind of glam her up a little bit, though. As I like Shotzi as like the tomboyish kind of character. They kind of femmed her up a lot, like with the bodysuit and the chest and stuff being out. It's like, okay, she can do this. She can pull off sexy for sure. But I think that Shotzi as a character comes off a little bit more masculine, because her whole thing is that she's a daredevil, and you can do that even as a heel and still be sort of feminine. That's why I hope she keeps the helmet in the jacket. But it seems to me like they might want to go full diva with it and kind of put her on a bodysuit and have her be like super sexy just with the green hair and everything looking weird. I don't know about that. I want to see how she actually wrestles a match, and I think that's when I'll be able to decide whether I really, really like what they're doing with her. I need to see it in action, because she was just in a backstage promo. Who cares how she dressed in a backstage promo? I want to see her in a match and see what her gear looks like, and if they change her theme song and all that kind of stuff. Which I liked her first theme song that she had in NXT. I didn't like the second one, which is the one she had on SmackDown. Welcome to the Bald Pit. I hate that damn song. That song sucks. The second match, Los Lotharios, Carrillo and Garza versus Mansoor and Cesaro, which is an oddball tag team I've ever heard one. I guess Los Lotharios. I don't know what Lotharios means. I think it means lover. The lovers of the gentleman or something like that. In any event, and Garza and Carrillo. the best thing about this was the for starters, the match was not bad. It was actually a very unique match that you'll probably never see again, because Mansoor and Cesaro are not tag team partners. But Pat McAfee asked this question, like, could you imagine walking around this attractive all the time? And I said to myself, it's probably a lot of work being as handsome as Carrillo and Garza. Two good looking guys. Seems like it's a lot of work. In one way or another, it seems like it's a lot of work. So Garza and Carrillo win with a snapmare double drop kick finish to Cesaro, and the internet had a meltdown. I mean, had an absolute meltdown because Cesaro got pinned. And Cesaro eats pins all the time. I don't understand what the problem is. It's like, yes, we know he's one of the best mechanics in the world. We know that. Cesaro is really good at getting his shit in and getting his shit over and making you look good. That's why he's in the position that he's in. That's why he didn't get fired when everybody else is getting fired. He's really good. They appreciate him. Like, just because they value a guy enough to keep him on the roster amidst all the cuts, especially of cuts of people who aren't doing anything storyline wise. They fired people in the middle of storylines rather than fired Cesaro. They like this guy. He's a great utility player. And sometimes you need those guys. Sometimes those guys last longer than the actual stars as your utility players. Like Hardcore Holly. Hardcore Holly's career was twice as long as Stone Cold Steve Austin's. Twice as long as The Rock's. I think he debuted in 1995. He was still there in 2006, right? Steve Austin was already gone. The Rock was already gone. But Hardcore Holly was still there. So Cesaro might end up being one of those guys where he's one of those guys that's just there. Like, he's already been there 10 years. He debuted in 2011. So, he might just be a guy that's just they hang on to because they really appreciate what he can do. He's a great guy, a nice guy, great spokesman for WWE in Europe. He's going to be wrestling Walter and on WWE house shows in Europe. I hope they take one of those things and put it on NXT UK, but I don't want to get my hopes up. But that's his place, man. He's a utility player. He's great at that job. So I didn't trip out on him getting beat. It's like, so what? He's helping to build these guys, and these guys are far more on the chopping block than he is. He's probably very safe. But Garza and Carrillo, if they don't get over, it might not work out for them. It might not be there come January. I, of course, love Garza and Carrillo. I think they're both awesome. I've been pushing for both of them to really get more TV time, to show more character stuff. I think the character that they have, Los Lotharios, I think is more of Garza's character than Carrillo. Because they used to call him the Lethal Lothario, Angel Garza. And it incorporates all the roses and stuff like that, which is another part of Garza's gimmick. So once this thing gets over, if it gets over, you pretty much know who's the guy they're going to spin out of this as the solo star. Because it's the guy who they basically cannibalized his gimmick and gave it to his cousin. But I'm a fan of both of these guys, man. And I hope other people are too. They're on the right show for them to really get noticed and get attention and be top guys. And they have good enough English where it can work. They're not Andrade and, they're not Grand Metalik, where Metalik wore that mask. You couldn't hear anything he's saying. And you couldn't see his facial expressions. And English was not very good. They have, all the opportunities in the world. They're not masked, so you can see how they look. They get to sell their facial expressions, and they can speak in English. So hopefully they get a shot. Hopefully they get some time. They need like a year as a tag team before they do something. But they're going to probably break them up at SummerSlam or WrestleMania or something like that. All right, so Jeff Hardy's hanging out with Aaliyah, which seems like a weird thing for Jeff to be doing. And Sami Zayn came up to them, or he walked up. They walked up to him. I don't know how this happened. And he offered Aaliyah some advice, as he is the elder statesman of SmackDown, and said that this place is all about appearances, and told Aaliyah to start wearing pantsuits. And I just was like, why would you tell this young lady to start dressing like Hillary Clinton? Why would you do that? Why would you want her to embarrass herself like that? And then Jeff Hardy just welcomed Aaliyah to SmackDown because you got nutcases like Sami Zayn running around telling people how to dress. But Sami Zayn was not done for the evening. Sami Zayn also decided to make himself an appearance to pick on Hit Row, which was very, 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 very awkward. So Hit Row is coming into the arena, and then here comes Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn said that their entrance the previous week, or 2 weeks ago, however many weeks ago it was, that it sucked and that they need a little bit of work. And Top Dollar wanted an example. Show me an example. So Sami Zayn goes out there and does this spastic entrance, and then with so much wicked, wild, just insane dancing, that incorporated him rolling around on the ground, showing great energy, and said that's how you do it. You got to have presence. Then he introduced Hit Row, and then we heard Hit Row's new theme, which, of course, as I said in my other video, they had to delete B-Fab, so the most melodic part of the song was taken out. The Hit Row, because that's B-Fab's voice. So they had to change the theme song, and it's still dope, but you can tell that B-Fab added a lot to that song. I saw a lot of people writing the eulogy for B-Fab, how, Hit Row is not the same without her. I'm like, well, you know what? The theme song ain't the same without her, but the group is fine. The group is fine. She wasn't the best rapper in the group as it was. I think they took her out before they really did anything. So let's say in 3 years, if Hit Row really, jumps off, It'll be like Mark Jindrak, where people are going to be like, hey, remember that time Mark Jindrak took pictures with Evolution and he was going to be in Evolution? And people was like, nah, I don't remember that at all. Some people are going to be like, hey, remember that when Hit Row had a girl in it? And people are going to be like, nah, I don't remember that at all. That's if this thing works out and they just don't decide to fire these guys, especially Swerve. They'll probably fire Swerve. In any event, Hit Row makes fun of Sami Zayn and then encircled him, said he sucks. The moment they said he sucks, the crowd started chanting that he sucks. Sami Zayn said that they're gonna want to forget this when he gets done with them, as he runs off. Pat McAfee made several references to B-Fab. Before the commercial, he said this is going to be fabulous, which of course, B-Fab. And then he also sang her part of the song during their entrance. So he's not going to let people forget that she was in this gimmick. So it was nice. It was okay, I guess. I want Hit Row to actually start doing something. I get real antsy about this kind of stuff. I don't see them doing anything right now, and it seems like there is things for them to do. There's a tag team division that desperately needs more people to be involved. The Usos just standing around doing nothing, wrestling a New Day 100 times. We definitely need new, fresh blood floating around. And I'm not saying that, immediately dump them in the tag team title picture. What I'm saying is at least, get them some wins, let them show some personality to the ring, let them do their entrances and all that kind of stuff. Let's, get people something to invest in. But a feud with Sami Zayn could be fun, but we know that it's not going to be a feud, really, because Sami Zayn is not doing anything. Ever since they killed his storyline with Dominic Mysterio, he's gone back to floating around. They have to do something with Sami Zayn. Maybe try to have him poach a member of Hit Row. He's a great liberator. Let's see if he can try to liberate Ashanti Theodonis or something like that from the group. He already targeted Top Dollar and said that Top Dollar needs some work. But I appreciate that Sami Zayn is such a silly character. He's so wacky and delusional. And now he thinks he's the elder statesman of SmackDown. I don't know why he's calling himself that. Speaking of, I don't know why you call yourself that. Drew McIntyre is out here, and they've called him the SmackDown Warrior. That sucks. That sucks hard. That's bad. But whoever came up with that, erase it. Do it again. Do it right this time. SmackDown Warrior. What does that? Why? Why is that? That's stupid. So, Drew McIntyre is having an open challenge. I like the Drew McIntyre open challenge. Ricochet takes up the challenge. I was like, ooh. Didn't expect much out of this. Ricochet then comes out here and cuts the best promo he's ever cut by saying that Drew McIntyre is playing with fire. And that one of these days, somebody's going to walk down this ramp, get in this ring, and smack you right in the face. Then he did all of those things and smacked Drew McIntyre right in the face. He then started getting launched like laundry across the ring for the next 3.5-4 minutes of him literally just being tossed all over the world by Drew McIntyre before eating probably one of the best claymores in the history of claymores being hit in the face. And of course he loses because he's Ricochet. After the match, Ricochet is backstage with Mustafa Ali. Mustafa, during the match, was watching and told the interviewer, somebody who was holding a microphone, that he and Ricochet have a lot in common. After the match, he approached Ricochet and says, hey, why don't we team up? We got a lot in common. We used to be good friends. We used to be good buddies. Now, I want to be a tag team. Ricochet told him, nah, he's not interested. For several different reasons. One of the reasons is that Mustafa Ali is a whiner. The second, he treated Mansoor, his last tag team partner, like shit. Third, Mustafa Ali is just plain a jerk. All valid reasons to not tag team with Mustafa Ali. And the one thing that I'm learning is that Mustafa Ali really likes Ricochet. He wanted Ricochet in Retribution. When he ran Retribution, he wanted Ricochet in it. And now he wants Ricochet to be his tag team partner. This was the best Ricochet has done talking in a long time. You know, he didn't sound scared. He didn't sound worried. He didn't sound overwhelmed. He sounded like he was getting pretty comfortable talking. So both of his talking segments tonight were pretty good. Of course, his matches were good. Can't really have a bad match with Ricochet. You can only have a match that I'm not interested in because he may do all the flippity-do shit. But it's not going to be bad. So Drew McIntyre is going out there winning random matches and gaining momentum. But he's not showing personality, which is what we want, right? We want Drew McIntyre to show more personality. And I don't mean we go back into historian Drew McIntyre. I don't want that. But we need to do something with Drew McIntyre where he comes across as being personable. Go back to cutting promos. Go back to building stories. It's okay to have the match every once in a while to swing the sword around. Yeah, but you're too focused on matches right now. If he could have just cut a promo segment on Ricochet, where Ricochet says, one of these days you're going to ask one of these open challenges, and somebody's going to walk up to you and smack you. And then Drew McIntyre say, well, how about you then? How about you smack me? How about that, man? How about you smack me? And then Ricochet be like, that's not my style. I don't want, no, you smack me, man. How about that? How you smack me? And, just to show that Drew McIntyre is very aggressive and he doesn't like this kind of throwing brick hide your hand kind of shit. And then you would have had Ricochet smack him because he felt like he had to. And then he could have just thrown him around. They could have had a little bit of a fight and set up a match next week. And you could have still did the Mustafa Ali promo out of that without beating up Ricochet. Without beating him in a match, rather. But you still could have did the same thing when Mustafa Ali gives Ricochet a ton of credit for going in there, standing up to Drew McIntyre, and who's, he's a bully. We're just going to, he's picking on guys. And then, of course, you could build up interest in the Ricochet match with McIntyre. I'm guessing Mustafa Ali is going to take up Drew McIntyre's challenge next week. Was probably with Ricochet watching, and then maybe Ricochet will help him. Who knows? Who knows? What's next? Happy Corbin. Jesus H. This has sucked. Happy Corbin is on Happy Talk with the Viking Raiders. This is all awful. He's claimed that there was no competition for them on SmackDown. This led to the Viking Raiders coming out there. Viking Raiders said they're not there to be happy. And they're here to take over Happy Talk. They're here to raid. And that Happy Talk sucks. Corbin and Madcap Moss made jokes. The Viking Raiders flipped over the tables and just generally being jerks and ruined everything. Then we got the tag team match, Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss versus the Viking Raiders. And this was god awful. All of this was awful. This was awful, man. I was not interested in this at all. I'm not interested in Corbin and Moss. I was far more interested in Corbin when he was broke. And, he had a stained shirt and everything. He was far more fun then. The Viking Raiders, they need a revamp. Maybe they need to turn heel or something. And I know they're likely to be built as the next opponents for the Usos, I think. Because the Usos are heels. So, either Hit Row is going to get the spot or the Viking Raiders. Have a healthy tag team division. I think that we were probably better off by not doing a Happy Talk segment. I don't think we ever need a Happy Talk segment. I get that we want to get over how bad Madcap Moss is at telling jokes. But this character is not working. I get what they're trying to do, but it's not working. It sucks. And Happy Corbin sucks too. And it would be it would be nice if they didn't just give Happy Corbin regular clothes to wrestle in. He always looks so bush league, just running around in a Hawaiian shirt or in an Applebee's vest, or he looked like he worked at Ruby Tuesday at one point. Like, this kind of stuff is stupid. They refuse to let this guy wrestle in wrestling gear. I know he looks awkward in wrestling gear because we did see him in wrestling gear for a little while, and he looked very weird. But that doesn't mean we put him in random real people clothes. He's a wrestler. You know, I don't want to see him wrestle in slacks. Like this, it just doesn't make any sense. And it looks unprofessional as fuck. I don't know. You know, it's weird to me. But I hate Happy Talk. The Viking Raiders, I would like the Viking Raiders if they looked less silly. I think that the giant horns and stuff like that, it make them look kind of silly. You know? Like you can tone it down and I think it'll be just as good. Like I said, usually I want some characters turned up higher, be louder, be brighter. For the Viking Raiders, because I don't know, I know it's not working because we're here to raid, and it's turkey chops and raiding. That's all they talk about. It's like, I get it, that's the characters, but can we please let them broaden their horizons a little bit? Just because they're Vikings or cosplay Vikings, we haven't even really decided how that part is figured out yet. Are they real Vikings? In which case, they shouldn't be saying that Happy Talk sucks. They should be basically like the Berserker. And they should just basically be like, and just flip tables over and start smashing stuff. You know, they should also have weapons. Like, why can't Drew McIntyre have a sword? These guys can't have battle axes or something. You know, or maybe not battle axes. Maybe they get Mjolnirs. Like, they have like giant hammers. And they just start bashing stuff like giant hammers. Why not? You know? I mean, Thor carries a hammer. He's a Viking. So maybe these guys should carry hammers. And they should just start beating people with hammers. Why not? Fuck it. I mean, what could be worse? What could be worse? They're dead in the water. Now, they do a good job of getting their matches over because they're very athletic, big guys. But I'm just very concerned about the character strangling them to death. You know, it's too heavy on them. You could tell just by the promo style, you know, it's too much. Back when they were doing something with the Street Profits and it was a little bit looser, the Viking Raiders were actually not bad, you know. But then it's like taking a jacket off and then putting the jacket back on. But if the jacket is two sizes too small. You know, that's kind of how it is sometimes with some of these characters. Like, you can be a loud, bright character, but if it's limiting you to the degree where you can't function, you can't have real emotions, like I was talking about Naomi. Like, Naomi's character is completely controlling everything she does. It's like at some point we do need the real person to have a moment to step in. That real person should step in when you're being fucked over out of matches. You know, this match gets taken away from you. You should be like, this is bullshit. Sure, the character of Naomi would never say that, but we should drop the character for a moment to say that that's bullshit. It's still within character, still within kayfabe, because it's still within the context of what's happening here. You know, but it's more realistic than, oh man, or, you know, coming back out dancing the next week, because that's character, 100%. The character never changes. You know, it reminds me a lot of Team Rocket from Pokemon. No matter how many times you beat them, they come out and they do the same spiel every time. They do their entire introduction every single time just to lose. You know, and it's like Captain Planet. Like, we don't need you to do the same introduction. Like Sailor Moon when she does the clothes transformation, where it's the exact same every single time. Like, sure, it becomes a trademark. It becomes something that is part of you and your character and your gimmick and all that kind of stuff. But that's stifling, because at the same time, we also want to see when the real person is involved. Never forget, I think it was WrestleMania. I said I'll never forget, and I did forget. I think it was WrestleMania 7, where Ultimate Warrior didn't run to the ring, right? He walked to the ring. And everybody made a big deal. I believe it was Bobby the Brain Heenan on commentary, made a big deal about Warrior not sprinting to the ring. He was also wearing that big jacket at the time too. And it was the first time I think people had ever seen the Ultimate Warrior make a normal entrance to the ring. That makes it seem like this was a big deal. You know, usually the Ultimate Warrior sprints to the ring 100 miles an hour. But here he's taking his time, conserving his energy because this really means something to him. And then he had on the spray painted on his tights means more than this. And it was the WWF Championship. His career means more than that. And therefore, because he was taking it more seriously, he didn't run to the ring. That's the little things that, as wrestling fans, we can pick up on. That's storytelling, And people don't pay attention to stuff like that, but that's what it is. You pay attention to it when you see it enough. If you see enough of Naomi dancing, she dances all the time, and then she stops dancing, and you're like, uh-oh, what's going to happen when she stops? Because she does it all the time. What's going to happen when she stops? It's like, okay, maybe she's taking us a lot more seriously. That will get people a lot interested in what's going on here. Once you break the norm, that's when people get interested. People are like, oh, okay, you're shaking it up. All right, let's see what we got here. WWE needs to allow people to do that a lot more. It's like, sure, they could come out there in their antlers and talk about, we're Vikings, we're here to raid and eat turkey legs. It's like, sometimes just let them sit down and be guys. Let them talk about beers that they like and guy shit. And then remind people that they're Vikings too, by having them do what we have stereotypically with Vikings, be ill-tempered. They're sitting down having a chat, they're making stupid jokes. Next thing you know, somebody flips a table, and they're like, and not that they're talking like Stan Lee's Thor, be gone, foul foe, for I shall smite thee with thy holy hammer. Like, no, we don't need that. But, we need something where there needs to be some organic pepperage all over these gimmicks. Because sometimes there's too much organic and you're just bland and you have nothing. You're Ember Moon. Then there's too much character and you absolutely are drowning in character. That's too much as well. That's what the Viking Raiders are. There's just, everything is about turkey legs and raiding. It's like they don't talk about anything else. Their voices have been taken from them. It's like, let them talk, let them speak, let them interact with other people like normal people. Even if they're going to be in Viking character, let them interact like normal people. All right, so that's SmackDown. Of course, the Roman Reigns stuff was really good. Really impressed by Ricochet tonight. Shotzi, very impressive as well. They didn't do a good job of pushing forward many storylines. We don't have any idea, outside of Nakamura and Rick Boogs are ugly, why Garza and Carrillo decided to help Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss, and we didn't get any explanation for that. And that sort of thing is typically unacceptable, because it was just last week and there was no follow-up. It's like, not like Nakamura and Boogs came out to beat up Carrillo and Garza after this match or anything. So the last thing I want to discuss, because the subject is here and I might as well go ahead and push for the full hour, is that Johnny Gargano and Kyle O'Reilly will be working dark matches. I'm not going to look at the results. I don't care. Ultimately, a lot of people have decided that this is their next step, that these guys are finally leaving NXT. Where I say, good. Vince is going to look at both of them and say that they're too small. Gargano might be, I think Kyle O'Reilly will probably get hit with the too old as well. I think Kyle O'Reilly is probably 34, 35. Gargano has a little bit more charisma than I thought he did. The way he actually ended up getting over. I do think that if Vince is going to be looking to replace Daniel Bryan, Gargano is a perfect Predecessor in that respect. He always gave me Daniel Bryan vibes, and he's very small, and it's going to be difficult to get people to believe in him. But I think that he can do it if that's what they're looking for. They have to be looking for that. You know, if they're looking for big, giant box office attractions, what I keep hearing that they're looking for, then Gargano and Kyle O'Reilly are on their way out. And it's not going to happen for either one of them. But if they're looking for good hands to fill out the roster, challenge for those mid-card titles and be able to carry those things, have good matches with guys like Cesaro and Dolph Ziggler and stuff like that, then yeah, they'll be great. They'll work out just fine. But it seems like WWE is kind of like, look, we got our work rate guys, we got our tag team guys, we got the women, we got a lot of our spots filled. You know, what kind of role can you play? And I think Gargano spending that time in the way where he was doing comedy and stuff like that actually added value to him as a character and as a person. And I think that his stock and likelihood of sticking around now, if he wants to, of course, he could always be on his way out because he want to be. But I think that if he wants that, he could get it. You know, I think that because of the way it was featured on NXT and the success of it, where he was able to get over Austin Theory and Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae and make them top stars and get people to focus on things that they were doing. He was integral into that. And I think him not taking himself very seriously, I think that can help. You know, Kyle O'Reilly, though, again, continues to have the personality of a wet rag. I just don't see how he can make it. Not in today's WWE. In 2008 or something like that, maybe. But today, no, man. I think that today's WWE is far more cutthroat and intolerant than it used to be. If you thought WWE was intolerant before of smaller guys who were mechanics and not much in the way of personality, if you thought they were brutalizing those guys like Lance Storm and Dean Malenko before, I mean, they just out and out cannon these guys now. They're not even going to the point of embarrassing them anymore, really. They're just getting rid of them. It's like at least a guy like Dean Malenko or Lance Storm rather, had a chance. It's like these guys nowadays, they just look at you and be like, "You're done. You're out of here. Get out of here. Kick rocks." It's like it's a cold world, man. So I hope they do well. I expect to see Johnny Gargano on Raw or SmackDown. And Kyle O'Reilly, not entirely sure. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.